And we have the name of the territory in the cases in which the incompatibility, remember the definition of conflict, so there has to be an incompatibility regarding government or territory. And if it's territory, then the name of the territory, the level of intensity that identifies like the amount of casualties and deaths that have occurred in that conflict. The cumulative intensity over the years, the start date of the conflict, the end date of the conflict, and this is like the most important variable for our purposes today, the outcome. So we have a series of numbers ranging from 1 to 5, okay? And then the last one says region, which goes from 1 to 5 as well. So in the other book of your Excel file, you have the code book, okay? In the other sheet, you have the code book. What is the code book? The code book is the definition of the variables. So here you have the definition of all the variables that are included here. So the two important variables to pay attention to here that we maybe didn't understand directly by looking at the data set is this one, the incompatibility. So the incompatibility for the conflict taken from the AIC April armed conflict data set. So the stated incompatibility is what the parties claim to be fighting over. 1 is territory, 2 is government, and 3 is government and territory. So that is the meaning of what is like the main issue or problem in that conflict. The intensity level is a variable that is coded in 2 categories. 1 is minor, which means between 25 and 999 battle-related deaths in one given year. Or number 2, which is at least 1,000 battle-related deaths in a given year. So if you remember well, that is the distinction between conflicts and civil wars. And then we have the cumulative intensity, which is a variable that takes into account the temporal dimension of the conflict. So it is a dummy variable. A dummy means yes or no. It's a variable that has 2 options, yes or no. And it codes whether the conflict since the onset has exceeded 1,000 battle-related deaths. So if not, a conflict is coded as 0, and if yes, is coded with a 1. And then lastly, we have the outcomes and the possibility of the outcomes of how the conflicts end. Number 1, if we have a 1, it means that it ended through a peace agreement. Number 2, it ended through a ceasefire. Number 3, it ended with a victory for the government side. If it's a 4, it's a victory for the rebel side. If it is a 5, it means that the conflict didn't end but became very low active, having less than 25 battle-related deaths in a given year. Or number 6 relates to conflicts in which the actor simply ceased to exist. Okay, so those are the 6 different options of how a conflict ends. So obviously this means that this data set only includes cases of conflict termination. It doesn't include cases of ongoing conflicts, and that is probably the reason why Colombia is not here, because the latest date of this data set is 2014, and then Colombia finished its conflict with the FARC rebel group in 2016, and probably in 2016 and 17 with the peace agreement it went below the threshold of 25 casualties. Now in 2017 there should be a new conflict appearing in these data sets, but this is not as updated as we would think. It finishes in 2014. And then the last variable, which is the region, it is a 1. So it is a 1 if, okay, one moment. It is a 1. So 1 Europe, 2 Middle East, 3 Asia, 4 Africa, and 5 the Americas. So that is the meaning of the conflict. Okay, now let's go back to the data set and let's look at the structure of the data set. So each row, what does each row mean? Anybody wants to share what is the meaning or what is the information that is included in each row of this data set? We already have the information of the meanings of the columns, which are the variables. But what about the rows? Each row gives us information on what? Any hand raised, please? Laura, go ahead.
I don't know, but I think that it is about the country year, as in the first lab.
The country year, as in the first lab. Okay, so your opinion is that it is that each row has a country year. Well, we have in the first rows, we have 1946 Bolivia, and then it jumps to 1952 Bolivia. So it doesn't seem to include information for every country for every year. It doesn't seem to include information for every country for every year. So there has to be another option, another logic. Hands raised. So, so what I'm asking you, Laura is saying maybe when the conflict ends. So yes, we have one column here that tells us the end date, okay? But my question is what each row means. What is what we would say in more specific terms, the unit of analysis, or what is the nature of each row? Hands raised. Who is talking? Who is talking?
I'm so sorry.
Sebastian, go ahead. Yeah.
It means a different conflict, maybe?
Exactly. Good. Very good. So each row is a conflict. Okay. So this is very important. We have a table here in which each row is a conflict. Conflict number 1, conflict number 2. Which conflicts? The conflicts that have ended, not the ongoing conflicts. No, the conflicts that finished, that ended. So each conflict, each row is a terminated, it's a finished, it's a done conflict, okay? Conflict or war. So it is very important for us to understand the logic and the structure of a data set. So we have the row, the entire row gives us information of the conflict, the particular conflict, okay? When I asked you in the past lab to produce a table to summarize the information of the data set, some of you, what you did was to repeat the data set, right? To put the data set again, to put all the columns, the same columns, all over again. I wasn't asking you to reproduce the data set, but to do a table that would summarize some aspects of the data set, as we did in the rest of the lab. So that approach was wrong. The other wrong approach is that some of you produced tables in which the rows contained information of different things. So in this case, each row is a conflict, one particular conflict, right? And all the columns, this column, this column, this column, this column, gives us information of that one conflict. In some of the tables you produce, the rows were different things. So it was like column number 1 was like country and column number 2 was years. So it was a combination of years and countries, and it was never clear what was the information of the row. So the data set has to have a logical structure in which the rows are units and all the columns gives us information of those units. Okay, so here each column gives us information of each single conflict. So row 14, it's a conflict that occurred in 1954 in the Philippines, and we have information on which was the site A, the site B, the incompatibility, the intensity level. It all relates to that particular conflict that started in the Philippines or that ended in the Philippines in 1954, okay? So let's go to the tutorial now, and let's take a look to the answer sheet and to the tutorial. So this is the answer sheet. So the first question, and one of the aspects that I am introducing in this data set is analysis. So you have done some tables, but you haven't done a lot of analysis. What I want you guys to do this time with this lab is to boost your analysis capabilities. You will look at the data and you will analyze what the data says. You don't ask me, what do you want me to write? No, what you are going to do is that you are going to look at the chart and at the table, and you're going to think, what are those charts and those tables telling you? Okay, you are going to think on your own. You are not going to reproduce information, you are going to think on your own, okay? So the first question, show in a pie chart the participation of each outcome type in the total amount of conflict terminations. What can you conclude? Important, analyze the data. I have a question about the data. How can we say that a conflict ended and started, and it's not that is a continuation of the same conflict? So they have, so they have really complex coding rules. Remember the first class in which we talk about Sambanis? Okay, so they take that information very, very, very seriously. And that allows them to identify whether the conflict is a new one or it's the continuation of the old one. So remember that if there is a peace agreement that stops the conflict for a period of at least 6 months, then if the conflict restarts, it is coded as a new conflict. Remember that? Remember that if the actors change, it is a new conflict. So of course, there are some remnants of the past, but there are some clear coding rules to identify whether the conflict continues or whether it actually ended. That is to solve Daniela's Clavijo's question. Okay, so the first chart, showing a pie chart the participation of each outcome type in the total amount of conflict terminations. What can you conclude? Important, analyze the data. So it asks us the participation of each outcome type in the total amount of conflict terminations. So I will give you 1 minute to draw in a piece of paper. How should that table, we have a pie chart, but to build the pie chart, we need a table first, right? So we first do a table and then we do the pie chart. So I want you guys to stop for 1 minute and think, how should the table look like? How should this table look like, okay? So think 1 minute about that. So it's asking us the participation of each outcome type in the total amount of conflict terminations. Okay. So, in my opinion, the table should look like something like this. I don't know if you can see this like correctly or like opposed, reversed. So I would do a table that lists the different like options of conflict termination. So the first one is peace agreement, ceasefire, victory by government, victory by rebels, low activity conflict, and actor ceases to exist. And in this column, I have two options. I would put the total number of terminations, you know, how many, or the percentage of the terminations. So this is the first table that we have to build. So we are going to go to the tutorial, and we are going to do first the pivot table. So as we practiced the last time, we are going to select the data set, right? And we are going to click insert right here, insert a pivot table. So go ahead and do that. Insert a pivot table, right? So do not select the entire thing because it might be wrong. So double check that the range is correct. The range is not correct in mine. Actually, it is correct. From A1 to L363. Good. And I want Excel to do the pivot table in a new worksheet. I'm going to click OK. Okay, now we have the pivot table is going to be here, and the fields of the pivot table are right here. So here we don't need information about years or locations or countries or intensity. No, we only need information on outcomes, right? So we are going to have. So we can do the outcomes in columns or in rows. It could work both ways. I'm going to do it in rows. So now we have the 6 outcomes listed here. You can observe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we need to know how many conflicts ended, right? In number 1s, in number 2s, in number 3s. So I'm also going to drag the outcomes. I'm going to drag it to values. So remember that in the last lab, it was important for us to have the sums and not the counts of killed people, because we wanted Excel to add up to sum, you know, 2 people died here plus 3 people died here and 4 people died here, and we wanted to sum all those numbers. So here we don't want Excel to sum up to do the addition of those numbers, right? For instance, in this case in which the actor ceases to exist, if we have the sum of outcome, Excel is adding 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. And we can see that the grand total here is 1,294. And we only have 362 conflicts. So no, this is wrong. So instead of the sum, I'm going to click this little thing, this little I right here, and I'm going to change it to the count of outcome. Okay, so now I changed that to the count of outcome, and now we have the correct information. We have 362 conflicts, and that is the total. And now I can see how many conflicts ended as a peace agreement, as a ceasefire, as a government victory, as a rebel victory, as low activity conflict, and actor ceased to exist. Now I want us to change the labels so that we actually understand the meanings of these numbers, okay? So we are going to type in, just change the labels. So I'm going to put the cursor in 1, and I'm going to write peace agreement, because we want our table to look fine, to look beautifully. Ceasefire, victory by government.
Professor?
Yes?
Are you going to upload this video on Aulas? Like?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now I changed the labels to reflect what number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6 actually means. And now we have a better looking table. It looks better, right? Okay, good. So I will give you a couple of minutes to do this step. I want to make sure that you are able to see .
Teacher, can you repeat how can we change the names of the values?
Good. So, so you just type in, you just type it, sencillamente lo escribes. Así te da la tabla, this is how the table should look like. And you just sencillamente pones el cursor en el 1, ¿cierto? Pones el cursor en el 1 y escribes.
For this lab, should we upload the Excel as well, or just the
No,
Word document?
just the Word document.
Okay, thank you.
So you just type in, see, just right on top of it. Okay, are you guys done with it? Right, yes, Dario, it is the count of outcomes, not the sum of outcomes. We don't want Excel to sum up, you know, if we have like 6 conflicts, we have 10 conflicts that ended with actor ceased to exist. And each of those is labeled, is like categorized with a 6. So we don't want Excel to add up 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. No, we want Excel to tell us how many times there is a 6, to count how many 6, how many 4s, how many 3s, how many 2s. So this is very important because sometimes we need the sum and other times we need the count. And you have to pay attention to that whenever you do your own pivot tables, which you will do. I can assure you that you will be doing pivot tables a lot in your work. It's going to be one of the main skills that you will have to employ at work. Okay, now we are going to do the pivot chart. So I'm going to select insert and here pivot chart. One second. Okay, here we have it. We have our pivot chart. But I want a pie chart. I don't want this type of chart. So I'm going to change the type. It didn't give me the option. There is an option that says change chart type here. So in the pivot chart options on the top, I have an option that says design, and I have this option that says change chart type. And if I click here, I can put pie. Okay, now I have a pie chart and it looks pretty good.
I'm sorry, Silvia, can you do that all over again?
Sure.
I can't find the part to do the...
So I'm going to click insert a pivot chart. So again, I just put the cursor here, and I clicked insert pivot chart, and I have a column type of chart. I don't want that chart. I want a pie chart, a pie, a torta. So I'm going to click. In my case, in my Excel, I have a tab here that says design. I don't know if you have that as well because Excel's change. And I'm going to click to change the chart type. So try to find this icon whatever it is in your Excel, the change chart type. And I'm going to click pie because I want a pie chart. And I click the pie chart, and now I have the pie chart, and it looks pretty good. And I have a few options here. I can change it a little bit. For instance, I can put the percentages as in a style, in this style. Or I can maybe more like this one. So for you, it is important. Take a minute to make your pie chart look beautiful. You know, it is very important for you to do addition of these things. I need to put a title. I need to put for instance, conflicts and wars by termination type, or by outcome type, or by outcome, just by outcome. Okay, this looks much better. And now I can see that peace agreement is 11%, low activity conflict is 38%, government victory is 25%, rebel victory is 9%. I want you guys to copy this and paste it in your answers sheet. So paste it right here. And how to paste it? Paste it as an image. If you don't paste it as an image, it's going to continue uploading and changing. So paste the special and paste as a picture, okay? Paste it as a picture, resize it, make it smaller if you want, and leave it there, and you will write the analysis here. You will have to analyze this chart. So analyze it. We're not going to do it right now because we need to move on. So after we are done doing the charts, go back to the answer sheet and type down your analysis. Okay? And now we are going to move on to number 2. Are you guys ready to move on to number 2? Are you guys ready to move on to number 2? You can write in the chat or say yes or say no. Okay. So number 2. I'm going to delete the chart that we just did. And let's see what the answer sheet says. So now I want to know, or I want us to explore, if there are different ways in how conflicts ended before the end of the Cold War and after the Cold War, right? So please include 2 pie charts, one for the 1946 to 1989, and another one for 1990 to 2015 period. And you have to analyze the differences between those 2 periods. So that's the idea. You produce a table, then you produce the charts, then you analyze the table. Okay, so let's look at the tutorial. So to answer this question, we need to introduce a filter to the pivot table. How are we going to filter? We are going to filter by years. So we will first do the first period before the end of the Cold War or during the Cold War. So how are we going to do it? I'm going to drag out to clean the pivot table. I'm going to drag out from my fields what I had. So first we are going to filter the data. So I'm going to drag the year to the filter. So now I have a filter here, okay? What does that mean? That means that I'm filtering the data set by years, and I'm going to tell Excel which years I want to filter. So I'm going to click here in this little arrow right here, okay? So right now, all the years are selected. Okay, I'm going to unselect the years after the end of the Cold War. So from 1990 to 2013. I'm going to do this manually. I'm going to unselect the years of the second pie chart. I'm only going to do from 1946, right, to 1989. So to repeat the process, take the year and drag it to the filter, drag the year to the filter, and now click on this really small arrow that we have here a small arrow, right? And you can see that all the years are selected, and manually unselect, unclick, uncheck the years from 1990 to 2013. Good. We have it now. Now we are going to do the same thing that we did before. We are going to drag the outcome to the rows, and if you can observe, it kept the labels, the new labels. And we are going to drag outcome again to the values. So we have one more time the sum of outcomes, and I'm going to change it to the count of outcomes. And it makes sense because in the period from 1946 to 1989, there were 153 conflicts and wars. So now I have a pivot table that tells me how did conflicts end before the end of the Cold War, or during the Cold War, after World War II and before the end of the Cold War. Are you guys good? Are you guys done with this part of the process? I'm trying to go very slow so that you guys can follow. Good. Now we are going to do a new pivot chart. So I'm going to place the cursor right here and click Insert Pivot Chart. And again, it gives me a column. I don't want a column. I want a pie. So I'm going to change the chart type, click pie, and now I have a pie. And I'm going to change the title. Addition is very important. Make your charts look well. They have to look well. They have to stand by their own. You just, by watching them, you understand what they mean. So what was the title that we gave to the other one? It was, we said conflicts and wars by outcome. So I'm going to put here conflicts and wars by outcome, 1946 to 1989. Look, it's looking good. It's looking very good. I'm going to copy, Control C, and I'm going to paste it in the answers sheet. Paste special, paste as an image. If you don't do this, it's going to keep uploading itself and it's going to be changing, and then you have to do it all over again. So now we have it here. And now I'm going to do the second pie chart, which is for the period from 1990 to 2015 or 14 or 13. So I'm going to, you can keep it. It's going to upload itself. So click the filter here. You know, this is small arrow that it shows that it's filtering. Then you're going to click select all so that nothing is selected, and select everything, because you know it's shorter this way, and select everything, and then go to the end and start selecting 2013, 2014, 2010, 2009. Select all the numbers from Right. Okay, I selected everything. We are going to double check that it has the count of outcome. Yes, it has the count of outcome. Now we have 200 conflicts. It makes sense. It's the rest of the conflicts. And now we have a new chart, right? Which is this one, which uploaded itself. We need to change the title, right? Because now it's from 1990 to 2015. And we have this very beautiful new chart that gives us information of the period after the end of the Cold War. So you are going to paste it right here, paste the special, paste this picture, paste it. And now you have the two charts and you have to analyze the differences between them. So, so look at them. They are very different. The way how conflicts ended before the end of the Cold War and after the end of the Cold War, they vary dramatically. There are huge differences here. So in your analysis, analyze those main big differences. And if you want to produce hypotheses on what could be the causes of those huge differences. You know how it is very cool to be able to go from this long data set that has 300 plus rows, right? To put some theory, because we, like, theoretically in international relations, we know that the Cold War meant differences, that it implied that it carried some differences to the way how conflicts were fought. And actually that is observed in the conflict terminations. The conflicts of the Cold War era ended differently than the conflicts of the post-Cold War era. And in some terminations, that difference is very, very notorious. So you have to, like, leave some space for your analysis. You are going to analyze the data right here. And we are going to move on, okay, to the next table. Are you guys ready to move on? If you are not ready, you can say, or you can write in the chat. If you want me to do it again, Rosa, you need some more time. Do you want me to do it again? No. Are you guys alive? Are you guys there? Are you guys listening to me?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Okay. Okay, so the next chart is asking us how conflicts ended by region. So now it asks us a column chart to show the amount of terminations for each outcome for each region. Everything in a column chart. So one column per region and different colors for termination types. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Um, So first we are going to do a pivot table in which the regions are in rows and the outcomes are in columns. The values should be shown in the count of outcomes. Okay. So let's go back to our, I'm going to delete this. Delete, drag out. We no longer need a filter of anything. Be careful, be careful to clean this up. Do not leave filters. If you leave a filter, then it will give you wrong answers. So the region, I'm going to move the regions in rows. I'm going to move the outcomes in columns. Okay, so we have a nice looking table here that gives us, you know, regions in rows and outcomes in columns. Now I'm going to put the outcomes in values, and I'm going to be sure to change to the count of outcome. The count of outcome. Now the grand total is 362, which is correct. It's the number of rows in the data set. So now we have a very interesting tables that tells us in region 1, how many peace agreements, how many ceasefires, how many government victories, rebel victories, low activity conflicts, actors cease to exist, a grand total. And the same for all the regions, okay? So I'm going to double check that the question is not. Okay. We have done this. So now we need to change, as we changed the names of the outcomes, we also need to change 1, 2, 3, 4 for the names of the regions, okay? So that it is easier to understand our table. So in the code book here, we have the number 1 in region. Number 1 is Europe. Number 2, Middle East. Number 3, Asia. Number 4, Africa. And number 5, Americas. Okay. So number 1, Europe. Number 2, Middle East. Number 3, Asia. Asia, Africa, and Americas. Number 3, Asia. Number 4, Africa. Number 5, Americas. Okay, now we have an interesting table that gives us how conflicts ended by region. Look, only 38 conflicts in the Americas. Contrast that to 123 of Africa and 119 of Asia. You know, the Middle East has much less conflicts than what we would expect, right? 43. So already it's giving us interesting results. So now we are going to do the pivot chart. To pivot chart, we need a column. We need a column chart. So let's do insert pivot chart. And just by clicking, it gave me the chart that I wanted. So we have the columns. And this is so visual. It gives us immediate information. For instance, it is very, very telling that in Asia, the majority of the conflicts end through low activity conflicts. And that also happens in Africa, but not in Americas. In Americas, conflicts don't end that way. Conflicts end mostly through government victories, right? It is already telling us lots of differences of how conflicts end and how those terminations vary by region. So we have this very beautiful chart, you know. It's missing a title. We need to add a title. So I'm going to click the sign and I'm going to click here, add a chart element. And I'm going to put a chart title above the chart. I want the title here that says outcomes by region. And let's say that I also want to write an axis title of the word. I'm going to add here number of conflicts. Right, so now we have a very good looking column chart. I'm going to copy this and paste it in our answers sheet. So I'm going to paste as image as well. And then resize and leave the space to analyze your results right here. So analyze your results. And now the fourth point, it also relates to this same table. So it asks us, in percentages, are there drastic differences in the way how conflicts end by region? Yes, Juliana, go ahead.
Good morning, hi.
Juliana.
Prof, I don't know why my chart looks so different. And when I enter to change the data that I'm selecting for my chart, the values and the category of axis level are different. So may you show the data you're selecting so I can like guide from that?
Sure, first be sure that you don't have anything in filters.
Yeah.
And the rows is region. Okay. In the outcome, you have, in the columns, you have outcome. And in the values, you have the count of outcome. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's the grand total gives you 362? Or what is your grand total? Right here.
Yes.
It gives you 362?
Yes.
So what is the difference?
In the column chart.
So how is your column chart? Can you take a picture and send it through our chat?
Yes. Give me 1 second.
And give me 1 second too. I have to do something. Good. I was making sure my daughter is taking her kindergarten virtual classes, which is totally ridiculous. Okay. So the problem is that your chart is including the grand total. So what you have to do is to exclude that option. So I'm not sure how you can do that in pivot charts. Try to delete the chart and do it all over again. Just the chart, not the table. The information is correct. You know, the only problem with your chart is that it is also including you the very last row, and we don't want that. But if it appears again, it's not a big issue. You can leave it like that, no problem. So yeah, actually there is like, it's not a big issue. Okay, so now I want to know the differences in percentages. So an easy way to do that is we can change the way how, you know, we can change the information here. In the count of outcome, we can tell Excel to give us not the count, but the percentage of the column total. But we can just simply change the chart type. We can click design, change chart type. We have the columns, and instead of this column here, which is the one we have, we can tell Excel to give us a stacked column, una columna apilada al 100%. And so if we click, now we have just 5 columns, one per region, right? And each column gives us, you know, the portion or the percentage of conflict terminations. At the top, we have also some design options. We can have like the numbers here. I'm gonna see if any of these options gives us the percentages. Actually, it seems they don't seem to. Luisa, go ahead.
Yes, teacher, I really don't understand how to analyze this type of chart because, like, if you consider the second column, we have 20%, which is in blue. And then we have in the fourth column 43%, which is in blue as well.
These are not percentages. These are numbers.
Numbers.
Yes, because we haven't changed the chart. We still have the count of outcome. But what Excel does on its own is that it gives us, you know, the idea of percentages. So if we should change to percentage, we should. So we have, how are we going to do that? Let me show you. One second. I need Excel to show me the little I right here, which is not showing. It's not showing me. Okay, I'm going to do this all over again. Pivot table, field list. Okay, the count of outcome. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to change show data as percentage of column total. Yes. No, not the percentage of column total. So, sorry, the percentage of row total. Yes. Why the row total? I want to tell me, okay, how many of the conflicts in Europe, what percentage ended as peace agreements and ceasefires, government victories, and 100% is the sum of region. Okay, got right, like here, we have here 100% here. Okay, now we have the column by percentages, the chart by percentages, you see?
Sylvia, can you do that again, please?
So here in order to give me, to change from numbers to percentages, we can do that in this field here, in the values field, because we need Excel to present us the information as percentages, not as numbers. So you can click here in the count of outcome, the little I right here gives you different possibilities on how to show the data. So I'm going to click show the data as, I think we did this in the first lab too, show the data as, and select percentage of the row total. So I want us to give Excel to give me information of each of these categories as a percentage of the row total. The row total is going to be 100%, each row, each region. So Europe, 100%, Middle East, 100%, Asia, 100%, Africa, 100%, Americas, 100%. What is the percentage of peace agreements in Europe? in Middle East, etc. So percentage of row total and okay. And it's going to give you these numbers right here. So we have that in Europe, 15% of conflicts ended with peace agreements, 25 with ceasefires, 20% with government victories, 5% with rebel victories, 28% with low activity conflicts, 5% with actors cease to exist, and the total. And we have that for...
Teacher,
Yes, go ahead.
I have different values. I don't know. In Europe, I have 63% in peace agreements.
Are you sure that you don't have... So the number of conflicts is the same? If you put just the count of conflict, the count gives you the same? Again, so this was the first step. It's the same. It's
Okay.
6, 10, 8, 2, 11, 2, 39. And the total is 362?
Yes, it's the same number.
The same numbers?
Yes.
Okay, so again, count of outcome.
Yes.
Show data as percentage of row total. De la fila, del total de la fila. Maybe that is the problem.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, now it's the same. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now what you have to do is to copy these, paste it, put a title, again, design, put a beautiful title on this chart, design, add a chart element, chart title, above chart. Outcomes by region in percentages. Copy these, paste it in your answers sheet. As a picture.
I have one question.
Yes.
For my Excel doesn't give me the option of like edit the table, so it doesn't show me like the percentages or to put a title. It doesn't give me the option, so I'm just wondering. I have the same version as you, so I'm just wondering if I'm doing something wrong.
No, probably not. I mean, there is probably like a place there that you have to explore where you can change the design. It's just a thing of design of the table. But if you don't
Yeah,
have,
I mean, I can put.
You can put what?
I can put title or watch the percentage. I mean, if I stand in every
Right.
column, I can see it.
That's not a problem. That's not a problem. As long as the chart is correct, it doesn't matter if you are showing the little numbers.
Okay.
Actually, generally, you won't have charts. If you remember all the reports that you have read in the different newspapers and magazines and in scholarship articles, it's very rare to have the percentage numbers here. Generally, it's just the colors, and then it's just the visual thing that gives you the information. And you also have the possibility of calculating by the axis. So you can tell that, like, for instance, like in this case, which is Asia, 50%, just by looking at the colors and at the axis, you can tell more or less what are the percentages.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and that's it. You also have to, analyze your results here. And then the last point, and we have 7 minutes to finish up, it's asking you to do your own pivot table. And in this, I also want to say something. We had some labs of the second lab that we are currently grading, and we saw that some of you did the same tables, like the same things that we had already asked. So I don't want you guys to repeat the information we have already analyzed. There are plenty of options here. Think about something that you want to learn to investigate through this data and do your own chart, not a repetition of any of these charts that we have already done. Do your own thing, you know, put your imagination at play. You already know how to do pivot charts. It's a superb skill that you have, that you it is a superb skill that you are mastering. Juliana and Luisa, I think that you have already asked questions, so I'm going to lower your hands. So if any of you have a question, please raise your hand. Rosa.
If I understand well, we have to make like a chart of information, but based on the data set, right?
Of course, of course. So it uses data sets. Just do your own, do your own pivot table. Just use your imagination to play out with those variables and categories that you have there, but use this same data set. Don't do anything, don't search for anything different that will be too complex. Just do one as similar as what we have done. Try to, you know, we haven't explored fatalities or the intensity, right? We have a variable here called intensity level. So explore something regarding that, or focus on a particular region, not all regions, but just one region, or, you know, like there are so many possibilities. So play with your imagination and do your own pivot chart. Okay, folks, so this was our lab for today, and this is our last lab, our very last lab. You have already learned so much about Excel, about data sets, about analysis. And then some of you have asked me, how is the final exam going to be? And the final exam is going to be something like this. It's going to be like a lab in which you will analyze the result, analyze a data set based on what we have learned throughout the class. So be sure to follow the tutorial and to understand how to do these things. And through repetition and through practice, you will get to master this basic data analysis abilities. And we will also put them at play in the final exam, okay? Any other question? Comments? Okay, for Thursday, I think that we are going to do for Thursday, the class will be asynchronic, will not be synchronic. And on Monday, our class will be synchronic. So Thursday will be asynchronic and Monday synchronic. Sorry, Tuesday synchronic. So this way you are better able to manage your time at home. Okay, guys, if there is nothing else, and if there are no more questions, no more comments, or then I'm going to, there is one new message. Thank you. You're welcome, Sebastian. Thanks for coming here today. Did you like the lab? Are you like, do you find it useful? Maybe you can open your mics. Okay, now you are all unmuted. Any comments?
Pero ahí va, abriré bien la boca. Aplausos al chef, bastante obesa, claro que sí, bastante deliciosa. Eso no cabe duda.
Recipes.
Bastante obra
For
de arte.
lunch.
No sé si me lo voy a
Okay, guys, see you then, and have a nice day. See you on Thursday in our asynchronous class. Bye bye.
Bye, teacher.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
teacher.
You're welcome. Bye.